So we'll go ahead and yogi's choice, sit up or lie down as you wish. And let's begin with our heart-focused breathing practice. So we can take our thumb over top of our first finger between the middle knuckle and the fingernail. We can rest our hands. We can release this hand position if at any point it becomes too much, uncomfortable in any way. And if we are sitting up, let's elongate the spine. So we'll give a fair amount of confidence to our posture. This might actually feel like a very demanding position if you don't often sit on the floor, in which case you may like to have a wall behind you or sitting on a cushion. Or we could even have our hands in behind us to help us sit tall. It's funny to think of sitting as hard work, but like any skill, if we don't do it often, it becomes that way, doesn't it? And like I said, we may like to place a hand over heart, and let's focus on our heart-centered breathing. So imagining that we are breathing into our heart space. If this feels like a very abstract or kind of woo-woo idea for you, there are a couple different ways we can think about it. We can sense our heartbeat. Again, we might like to put a hand over our heart to feel that internal drum beat. We can focus on the expansion of the ribs. And of course, if breathing into your heart makes perfect sense for you, go with that. It is sometimes said that the mind is the king and the heart is the king's advisor. And by listening to both, we have a balanced perspective when making decisions. So maybe just for today, listening to our bodies and our class experience with both our hearts and our minds. And our whole theme for today is release, relaxation, rest, peacefulness, all of these lovely feelings that we don't get many chances to feel in a given day. So let's see if we can carve out a bit of an experience to have them. We can go ahead and release our hands. Eyes opened or closed, let's begin to roll our shoulders. So if you are lying on the floor, we can start to come to a seated position, or you could do some shoulder movements from lying on the floor. We could also turn our head side to side, or do gentle neck rolls, releasing chin to chest and back up again. Neck rolls kind of got a bad name for themselves when group fitness classes first started using them. But as long as we're moving mindfully, balancing mind and heart as we go through, it is totally okay to roll the neck. And once we're all seated, let's get some movement going in the whole body. So we'll take our hand to one side, opposite arm up and over. We're going to alternate side to side, so right, left, doesn't matter. Inhaling, we reach one arm up. And exhaling back down through center, switching sides. So we're taking our spines for a ride in a side bend position. We can keep that heart-focused breathing going. We may even like to take hand to heart as we go through. Switching side to side gives us a bit more core strength, but also heart awareness. And the idea is that if we inhale as we reach up, we get some extra expansion through the rib cage. It can actually help us take a deeper breath, even at rest. So we stretch out our muscles between and around our ribs. And then even as we rest later, we'll be able to get a deeper breath because we have stretched them. If we remember which side we started on, let's give it a couple more. Finishing on the opposite side. And we'll come back through center. Again, we can reset and realign our spines. Let's take ourselves for a twist. So we'll bring hands to heart to begin. And we'll pull one elbow back at a time. So we're squeezing the back of one shoulder and then the other. So this is a great way, actually you were asking about tension in the front of the shoulder. A great way to balance that is actually to squeeze the back of the shoulder. So often stretching gets more attention than it's due. If we try and stretch our chest all day long, but we never do anything to strengthen the back, we're gonna have a much harder time of it than if we do work to squeeze our back muscles to keep our shoulder in a position where we'll get less tension all day long. This is why weightlifting can actually complement stretching quite well. Okay, we're gonna make it a bigger movement. We're gonna pull back and we can turn the head if that feels good. And we can even draw a bow and arrow here. Maybe inhaling as we reach forward and then exhaling with that squeeze. All right, we'll make it one bigger. So we can keep doing any of those small movements, or we can add a big sweep up overhead and a big turn, looking in behind. We might like to tap the fingers down or leave them open to T for more muscular engagement, more of a muscular challenge. Yogi's choice. Sometimes these little things can really help at this time of year to not get so cold. Instead of putting our hands down, leaving them up so our shoulder muscles stay engaged. Again, inhaling up, expanding our rib cage, and then exhaling down. Let's go once more each way. Again, we can come back through center. Okay, let's do a spinning top. So circling movements are supposed to be great for establishing flow in the body. So let's go ahead and circle, noticing how it feels. Again, a very good one for producing heat in the body is to do these kinds of twists and circles. If it is, for some reason, very warm in your home, or you're rewatching the recorded video in a July heat wave, probably slow, small circles. It's, I think, minus 16 outside right now, so we can do really big circles, we can get low. This is not the most robotic, like safe, biomechanically sound movement, so please do listen to your body. If it feels like it's making you dizzy, or it feels like it's going to be aggravating to your low back or something like that, you can put a regular twist back in or any other kind of seated movement. All right, let's switch directions. Maybe feeling hot. Maybe the heart rate is picking up. And we might notice as we go through, the range of motion gets bigger, or you may notice as you go through, you feel like you've had enough and you want to bring it into a smaller shape. It's all good. We use our common sense, we listen to our bodies, keep it in a comfortable range of motion. All right, let's start to slow that movement down and bring it back to seated. We'll realign our spine. Let's take just one more heart-focused breath in and out. Noticing how we're feeling now. And we'll start to make our way to child's pose. So we can go ahead and swing our legs around. So it's usually easiest to follow me if you have your mat like a diving board, and I'll show you everything from the side. And we can sit hips towards heels, down and back into child's. Now, someone told me recently that your nervous system doesn't like things just hanging in the air. It's more calming if every part of your body can rest. So if you notice that your head is kind of floating around, maybe just for today, let's bend the elbows and come up high enough that we can rest the forehead down on the mat and see if that feels more soothing. We can also use our block underneath our head. Or your bolster or your rolled up mat, whatever you have around, anything to catch you so you feel more held in child's pose. And we've been focusing on breathing into the side of the ribs and the heart. And one of my teachers refers to this as the back door of the heart. So as you're lying in child's pose, noticing the space between the shoulder blades, the back of the heart space, the back door of the heart, and breathing into that space there. So we actually have more lung capacity in our backs than in our fronts. That's why when you see those long-distance road cyclists, they're really rounded over, and Lance Armstrong's lung capacity is like 15 times more than the average person. The back has a lot of expansion. I like to picture any of those birds or animals that like really puff up in the back. And then with the rise and fall of your breath, you may notice a lot of sensation in the rise and fall of your ribs or shoulder blades in the back. And if it's very subtle or you are completely unaware of that sensation, that's okay. Whatever you notice, allowing that to come in to your awareness. Now, if we have a prop, we can go ahead and place it off to the side for now. And we'll come to all fours and we'll move through cat and cow. So we're probably pros with cat and cow at this point. I'll give us our usual variation. So with cat, we push the mat away and we lift the back door of the heart to the sky. And with cow, we lengthen the belly, lift the tailbone, and reach the front door of the heart forward. And we can match breath and movement together in a way that feels good. We are in the flow while we're here. Maybe we're rippling through the spine. Or maybe we're going off the beaten path, shifting our body weight to the side, to the front, to the back as we go. We're working towards the corners of the mat. Or that fun kind of circling hula hooping movement. We can take our tails and draw a circle with our tails, one way and the other, or we can take our hearts and draw a circle with our hearts. It may feel very tight, very restricted. We might be kind of sweeping the cobwebs off in this range of motion. It's okay, it's all part of the process. If you don't usually do it, why would you naturally be good at it? And then sometimes you are naturally good at things you never do. That seems so unfair, doesn't it? Let's keep moving in the flow. Opening our hearts, front, back, and side. Maybe looking over one shoulder at a time. And yogi's choice, when we're ready, we can rest back into child's, reaching the arms forward. Maybe we want to tuck our toes and pause, stretching the soles of our feet. Again, we can take our block or our bolster underneath the forehead, or for a more active pose, we can lift up into downward facing dog. And whether we're in child's or down dog, we can still have that vital flow of energy. So maybe we're noticing still movements of the ribs with each breath. Maybe we have some movement going, taking our hips side to side, or if we're in down dog, pedaling at our heels. Whether we're in child's or down dog, we can do big or small shifts, front and back. So we can still keep the pose alive, mobile, dynamic, rather than stable and stuck. I like to think often that the pose kind of has a life of its own that evolves while we hold it, as the various structures lengthen or tighten. And of course, our circulation is moving, our body systems are working. Well, let's get those hips going. So from down dog or child's, we'll go ahead and take the right foot between our hands, and we can drop our knee for a kneeling lunge. A great one to use our blocks for if we have one, or even if you have a chair that you would like to plant near you, or the wall, something to steady us. We're gonna have something under the right hand as we shift our body weight front and back. And some of us may like to have our hands to the floor, and some of us may like to have our hands to our thigh. It's all a negotiation of how long our arms and legs are, how flexible we are, how good our balance is. But I would say let's keep our front door of our heart open. So if in an effort to use the floor for balance, we're totally closing off the front of the rib cage, well, let's try to use the wall or maybe our hands to steady us while we're here. So we can keep the front of our torso open. We'll come into a strong lunge position. If we'd like to come off the back knee, of course, we can do that to get some of the weight off, but it's a tougher one for our balance. To make it easier to balance, we can keep looking straight forward, but we're gonna take our left arm and draw a big circle with it. So we've kind of done some of this movement already tonight, squeezing the back of the shoulder in an effort to stretch out the front of the shoulder. A lot tougher for our balance if we turn the head. So we always have lots of options to get a good sensation. There's no real perfect end goal or visual aesthetic, but I would like to bring some mobility to our shoulders and hips. You may have a different personal goal. Feel free to modify this movement. All right, we are ready to take it to the other side. So we can take our hands down and make our way back again into downward dog or child's pose. Pausing for a moment to reset. And out of curiosity, we can see how we're feeling left hip versus right, left shoulder versus right, left hamstring versus right, after the work that we've done. And then we're ready to make it match. Lunging on the left side. So we'll take our left foot forward, using our props in any way that we need to. We might like to double up or have a cushion under the back knee, of course, and we'll shift front and back. And again, we can be like very robotic, straight front and back. Or maybe we're sort of taking it to the corners, finding some different spots. Keeping the front of the heart open. Good. Okay, we're ready for our shoulder. So let's find a good, stable, sturdy position for our lunge. And now our opposite hand reaches up and out and behind. Very common to get dizzy if we turn the head a lot, especially if we forget to breathe. So of course we can keep the eyes looking forward for a much greater challenge to our balance, our dizziness. We can go ahead and turn and twist. Remembering that there is no special prize for doing the pose in any particular way. It's more about an experience that we can take our joints through. I'm going to turn to stay facing you. Maybe we want to work with feeling the difference between loosely going through, which is okay, or really squeezing the back of the shoulder, which is okay too. We'll give it one more circle, however feels best for you. And then again, we can make our way into Yogi's Choice, Down Dog, or Child's. Seeing how it feels to rest our foreheads if we're in Child's. And in Down Dog, maybe just imagining that our head is gently being held. We can release the muscles of our neck, give our heads a gentle shake, and nod our heads yes. We're ready to make our way down to lie on our bellies. So we've done some work warming up our range of motion. And we'll do some back bends here. Everyone's back is different. I love back bends. I think no day is complete without some very extreme back bends. Let's notice how your back is feeling. So we want to balance head and heart, right? If our head says, hey, usually when I do too many back bends, my back hurts, then that would be important information to listen to, right? Let's reach our arms forward to start. And we may like to rest our forehead down on the floor, or again, our block, or rolled up mat. And I'll gradually give us more and more and more options to keep finding that edge of comfort and sensation so that we get the right level of sensation in our back bend. So this may be perfect for you. We can also turn the head side to side to get a forehead massage, whether we're on the block or the floor or the bolster. No matter where we are, let's imagine that we are relaxing our heartstrings. And let's allow the muscles of our face and jaw to release. And you can actually let your jaw hang open for a minute. I read an article recently that said flossing your teeth is really good for you because we rarely have opportunities to relax the jaw and let it hang open. And also it's good for your gums and teeth. When we're ready to add on, we can walk the elbows in so that we're on our forearms. A little or a lot. And we can make it more active or more passive. There is something to be said for resting here and letting our body weight really sink in. So if you know you have a dropped shoulder, I would say probably don't drop the shoulders way away from the ears. You can let gravity pop the shoulders up a little bit. If you don't know that you have a dropped shoulder, we can press the elbows down and pull the elbows in to extend the belly. We can walk the elbows in more and really stretch the heart forward. Some of us may like to come up onto the hands, but I would say that is much less common, and there are varying theories about locking the elbow. So as we say with every pose, let's listen to our bodies, notice how we feel, and find that right kind of comfort edge where we get sensation and a little bit of ease. Now, we may like to take our legs and bend them, or sometimes it's comfortable to prop one knee out to the side, kind of like tree pose. So we've been here a little while already, remembering that we can come out of the pose at any time, right? And of course we could do our other knee out to the side as well. Maybe finding at this point we want to walk the elbows in closer. Maybe we want more support from the block. Or we may be ready for a little break and we walk the elbows further away. Listening to our abs, our back, whatever you are feeling. That is your individual experience. Different yesterday, different today, different than tomorrow. And then as we get ready to come out of this pose, thinking about what your back as an individual might need. So, a couple of options. Some of us may like to come back into cat and cow, or maybe a flat back, or maybe sort of halfway between cat and child, really rounding, pulling the belly away. I always like to come onto my knees and really feel neutral in the spine. Some of us may even like to come into a back bend or chest expansion. So we'll take a minute here, kind of free flow. We often say in yoga the advanced version is listening to your body or knowing what modification to put in. And don't let me rush you, but we are going to meet actually lying on our backs. So we'll start to wind down and make our way there. And then when we get there again, we'll have another opportunity for free-flowing movement. Maybe taking the knees side to side, that kind of thing. So we can ease our way down, taking our hands behind one thigh. And when we get down here, maybe drawing knees to chest, rocking side to side. We could be windshield wiping our legs side to side as well. A more passive version, letting gravity do the work. Or a more active version, as we let the knees drop to the right, really pushing into the left heel to lift the left hip off the mat. And then the same on the other side. Knees drop left, really pressing firmly into the right heel so the right glute comes off. We could also butterfly and unbutterfly the legs. And let's do some work in knees to chest. We'll loosen up our legs. So, from knees to chest, we can give our legs a hug. And then let's hold just behind the right thigh and we'll extend the left leg. We can press the left foot down with our foot pointed or flexed or halfway in between. And then let's draw a circle with the right knee. So for me, I feel like I'm gonna fall over to the right, and I can just take my left hand or left arm out to the left to help with that. So we still have some warmth in the body. Our abs are working to give some stability to our right hip. And we have some circling movements encouraging flow in the body. Maybe this encourages flow of energy out with the old and with the new. And maybe a more harmonious flow of our lives. Well, let's go ahead and hold behind the right thigh again. We're going to bend and straighten the leg. So we can press the heel to the sky, firmly flexing the foot. And then release down. And maybe for your hamstrings or other tight spots, I always feel it in the calves. We might not even be holding the leg. It might just be like so far away. We can be having a strap behind the leg, or much more accessible. I usually just hold the front of my pant leg, then I don't have to worry about finding my strap or any of my other props. And of course, we could be bending the opposite leg so it's not such a huge reach. And let's start to take our right knee towards the right side of the room. So out beyond our right shoulder. Easing our bodies into this movement. So we want to work on this idea of peace and ease and flow. So we are going to just slide right in to our half a happy baby pose. I'm actually going to turn to show you. Maybe you can see it a bit better like this. So right knee comes past the right shoulder. I can give it a big hug. This might stimulate digestion for you as well. And we can hold behind the right thigh, the right ankle. I can still have my left arm out to the left side. And then depending on who you are, you may still be bending and straightening, or we may have sort of reached a stopping point. But we can still have some movement in the body by keeping a little bit of flow going. Maybe we're just circling the ankle. And to polish this one off, let's come into a twist. So we'll go ahead and drop the right foot. We can press it down to lift our hips and come onto the left side of the pelvis. And then we're going to take our right knee across to the left side of the body. We can have left hand to right knee, maybe our arms to T. This is one we don't often do. We can be sliding in and out of this movement so that we're rocking into the twist and out of the twist. And actually the question about knots in our muscles came up earlier. Sometimes we'll have like a knot and we'll try to stretch. And it sort of makes me think of like a tangled phone cord, or when you put your headphones in your pocket and they instantly like tangle up into a mess. But if you're really gentle with it, loosening them up bit by bit, you can untangle them. Or I think about a necklace, right? If you put your necklace, just throw it in the jewelry box and you like harshly try to pull it straight, it just won't. But gently, if we kind of move it in and out, like we're doing now, we can loosen it up. And let's think about all that work that we did, remembering opening the front of the shoulder and squeezing the back. Let's completely relax the right shoulder here. It's worked pretty hard today, even though it's a restorative class. And we'll come back through center, and we'll get ready to make our way to the other side. So let's begin. Maybe we want from knees to chest again, or a long stretch. And we'll take our left leg long and our right leg in. We can press the left heel down for more stability with the foot flexed or pointed. Might be nice to draw the elbows down as well and the shoulder blades down, so we still have this alignment of our spine, even though we're lying on the floor. And we're ready to draw a big circle. that left leg. We can have our right arm out to the opposite side for stability. And this circle can be big or small. Some of us may find it more relaxing to do a big circle with the hip. And even though it sounds and maybe looks silly, some of us will find it more relaxing to do a really tiny circle. I'm this person. The less movement feels like there's much more release in the hip. And then I can't believe when I work with some clients that they want to push their knee down to the floor and it feels so good. So again, we have this idea of the mind and the heart being the king and the king's advisor, and both are important. We need to weigh and consider both sources of information in order to know how to proceed. Sometimes we don't know how to proceed, but that's okay. We can always try things and then decide not to do the pose. All right, here we go. Bend and straighten the left leg. Maybe just holding on the pant leg. And we are ready for our half a happy baby. So now we're taking our left knee in a line past the left shoulder. We can hold the inner thigh. We can hold the pant leg. People will often put a strap on the foot and pull the foot over, but the idea is that we take the hip out to the side. Some of us may be bending and straightening the leg. And it's one of these things that even if you were never a gymnast and you don't have this level of flexibility, but it feels good to do it in a very small range of motion, brought much closer to neutral, that's okay too. We're still working in the same direction. We're still playing with all the same different structures and areas of tension. And this is why I don't like to use the terminology of a beginner pose or an advanced pose, because when we're looking at sensation and we're looking for good sensation and restorative classes that are supposed to help reset our bodies, sometimes the more advanced version gives no sensation, in which case why are we doing it? Sometimes the beginner version is so much sensation or feels like exactly what we need at the moment. All right, when we're ready, we can take our left foot, plant it flat. We're gonna come onto the right side of the pelvis so we can lift our hip and shift over. And we can move into our twist, relaxing the back of the left shoulder, left side of the chest, or maybe we're flowing in and out, teasing the range of motion. And before we move on, again, yogi's choice, we may have some favorite pose we would like to do. Happy baby, a bridge, or a half bridge, a wheel, a long stretch, windshield wipe, any of that good stuff. And I'll give us the option for legs up the wall pose. So if you know how to do legs up the wall, you're a big fan of legs up the wall, go for it. Don't wait for me. Otherwise, I'll give us a couple different variations of legs up the wall. So we can do it with no wall, taking our hands underneath our bums, and then an imaginary wall. If you have a chair, we can do the same thing, putting the calves on the seat of the chair. Or I will walk us through legs up the wall. So we did just stretch our hamstrings. We should be limbered up for this, I hope. Oh, you know what? I'm just going to turn the volume down a touch on this one. This song is louder than our other songs. So for legs up the wall, the trick is to get our bums right up to the wall. So we come into a fetal kind of position, and we gotta shimmy to the wall. It's not very dignified. With our bums touching the wall, we can use the strength in our core and our arms to come and lie on our backs, so we are in an L shape. With our glutes against the wall, our heels against the wall, and then it's up to you. We can bend the legs. We can butterfly the legs. Depending on your space, I don't have enough room here, but you can bring your legs open into a V position. Some of us like to do a cross-legged, but probably the crowd pleaser is to have the legs straight. And that is all there is to do. We simply let gravity take over. You might like to flex the feet. We can again bring hand to heart or belly maybe to focus on our breathing. We can have our arms by our side. And I have chosen this lullaby of a yoga song to lull us into a more relaxing position. If you are wondering what the words mean, they refer to the cycle of life. The door got painted and the doorknob got taken off. Come on, down. Thank you. So legs up the wall is supposed to be calming to the nervous system. That's why I threw this one in. It is supposed to be as calming to the nervous system as a 2-hour nap. I don't know who came up with this, but it's one of those pieces of information that has just been circulated around the internet 500 times. You be the judge. How does it feel for you? Does it feel soothing, restorative? If you get numbness in your feet, that's where the variation of having your legs on a chair or the couch can be nice instead of straight up the wall. Or even up the wall, you can mimic that position by having your knees over your hips, so we're in a 90-degree bend instead. But if it does feel good, Let's go ahead and give it another couple of minutes. Okay, so yogi's choice. We can stay in this position. If it is your favorite pose in the world, no need to move on just because I said we could. Option for supported fish. So supported fish is usually done with a bolster. But there's no need to rush out and buy anything new or fancy. You can use whatever you have around the house. I have an extra yoga mat. If you have a pillow, this is actually how I often will, I don't know about sleep, but relax in bed. And we take whatever you have. Pillow, bolster, yoga mat, towel, whatever it might be. And we want to line it up along the line of our spine. It's going to catch us as we go. If we have yoga blocks, we could also use them underneath the back. And we want to have the bolster not exactly touching our bums. Again, maybe a fist or two fists behind us, so that as we lie back, it catches us underneath our rib cage. If you put it too close to your bum, it's going to push your pelvis and your belly up, and it probably won't be very comfortable. It might be. But more common than crowd pleaser, a fist or two fists away from your bum catches the rib cage. And then the same idea is what we've been doing. Let's find ease and peace. We can take our palms up. Again, we may like to cross the legs or take the soles of the feet together and let the knees butterfly open. If we have blocks to catch our legs, that's another option. Finding a way to be comfortable however you are. Often this is quite a vulnerable position. In times of stress, if we think about that fight-flight response, both of them go like this. If we're running, we would curve in, protecting our soft spots. If we're fighting, we curve in, protecting our soft spots. Or even if a stranger comes close to you, you kind of feel this withdrawing of the heart space. Compared to if someone you feel safe with wants to embrace you, there's this opening of the front of the body. Some people might say it's just evolutionary, we've grown beyond that. But your mind believes whatever your body does. If we hide our hearts away, it won't be long before our thoughts follow that posture and we come into this kind of slumped view of the world and feeling. If we can feel safe and open up, hopefully our thoughts and our lives will follow. So if it feels good, if this position feels like an invitation, if it feels like you can settle into it, perfect, it is the pose for you. If going into it you feel like a kind of kickback and things tighten up, option instead, we can take the bolster away completely. In fact, we may even prefer it under the knees. And for a more gentle opening, we can have the arms out in T-pose. We can bend the elbows to 90, or if we do want to feel safe and hidden away, we can give ourselves a hug here. So that would have the opposite effect of opening up, but we don't always need to force the heart to open. So maybe the mind is saying, oh, but the teacher said we have to do that pose. And the heart, as the king's advisor, is saying, ooh, not today. Of course, we can modify lying flat on the back, still kind of props the heart open. If we take our arms open, same idea. And I will read to us a prayer for peace. So I was going through a dark time, and I had this book on my shelf, and I also had to do a book report for school. So I thought, you know what better than a book report that promises personal freedom and inner peace? Lying down or sitting up, please take a moment to close your eyes, open your heart, and feel all the love that comes from your heart. I want you to join with my words in your mind to feel a connection of love, maybe just with the self or a power bigger than the self. And depending on your beliefs, please modify these words to a power bigger than ourselves that comes from within ourselves. We share within us a strong desire for love. Today, help us to be more able to love life, to be life, to be love. Help us to love with no conditions, no expectations, no obligations, without any judgment. Help us to love and accept ourselves without any judgment, because when we judge ourselves, we find ourselves guilty and feel the need to be punished. And when we love without judgment, all these things fall away. Help us to love everything unconditionally, especially other human beings, especially those who live around us, especially those whom we try so hard to love. When we reject them, we reject ourselves. And if we love them, we love ourselves. Help us to love others just the way they are with no condition. To accept them the way they are without judgment. Because if we judge them, we find them guilty, often leaving ourselves with toxic negative emotions. Instead, today we clean our hearts of emotional poison, free our minds from any judgment, and move on the path to live in peace instead. Today is a very special day. Today, we start on this path. We open our hearts to peace so that we can tell each other, I love you, mean it, and without any fear. We can offer ourselves to this process. Today can be a very special day, our first day on the pathway to peace. We can use our talents, our voices, our eyes, our skills, our hands, and our hearts to share this commitment with ourselves, others, and the world. We may picture that a flame is growing in our hearts and becomes a big fire that doesn't burn but purifies everything that it touches, beginning with ourselves. We can take this flame from our own chest and give it to anyone we meet. All right, whenever we're ready, maybe we take our hands over our hearts, feeling our heart-centered breath one more time. Feeling our internal drum beat. And maybe for the first time, feeling our own internal flame, heat, and light. Thank you so much for joining me, not just for today, but for the past several weeks. The light in me honors and recognizes the light in you. So we are one. Namaste.